Come see us on tour in Dallas, Texas, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only there.
Okay, so we have a very special guest today. Douglas McGregor is a U.S. Army colonel who, since his retirement in 2004, has become more politically active, frequently sharing his expertise on foreign policy and military strategy to outlets including Fox News and RT. He served as a senior advisor to the acting Secretary of Defense under President Trump. He's also served on the board of the U.S. Military Academy and is currently the CEO of Our Country, Our Choice, a media company that aims to unite like-minded Americans. Please welcome retired Colonel Douglas McGregor. How are you, Douglas?
Good. I'm fine.
All right. I met you briefly in D.C. I know you don't like to be called Colonel.
There are worse things. I just tell everybody that I'm not wearing a white suit. I don't have a bucket of chicken under my arm.
Yeah.
There you go. By the way, I did want to make one modest correction to your introduction.
Mm-hmm.
You said I've become more politically active since I retired. I was never politically active while I was on active duty.
Okay. Well, fair enough. The
ones who were became generals. Next question.
Yeah. You know, let me ask you, this is a little off script, but since you got into that a little bit, for folks like yourself, I had the pleasure of meeting Lawrence Wilkerson and Dennis Franz a couple of months ago in New York. And I asked them this in the green room. Why did you not just go for the very corporate media mainstream narrative and make buckets of money? Like, the money is not in challenging the uniparty. Why did you go in that direction?
Because I have to wake up every morning and look at myself in the mirror. And I'm not real big on lying.
You know, that
you did all right. I mean, that backdrop looks pretty fancy, so you can't be hurting too bad. Looks pretty good. It's better than mine. I have a sloppily.
I don't know what's behind me right now. I only see what's in front of me.
Oh, okay. So you got a team there. It looks very good. It looks cool.
Well, I'll tell the team. They'll be very happy to hear that.
Yes.
You know, that must be
about time they got something right. That's another story. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's almost exactly what they said. So
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's almost exact. You were there. That's almost exactly how they answered that.
Yep.
All right. So let's start with something a little light. So a lot of people, depending on your perspective, maybe not if you're in Greenland. So a lot of people, yourself included, expected Trump to come in, or were hoping he'd come in and have a radically new foreign policy. And you could argue he has. I just don't think any of them had retaking the Panama Canal, buying Greenland, adding Canada as a state, renaming the Gulf of Mexico. I don't think anyone had this vision of foreign policy on their mind when they thought of a radically different direction. Do you feel that any of these proposals have merit? Do you feel that they're serious even about these proposals, or are they just having fun? Is it a distraction?
Well, you have to understand something, that if nothing else, Donald Trump is a marketing genius. And there's no one out there who knows how to manipulate the media better than Donald Trump. And so he has this predisposition to sort of throw red meat out to the audience of journalists and say things that are guaranteed to upset them and completely derail their line of questioning. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to take that into consideration. Secondly, if you really want Greenland, and I'm not sure who does, maybe now BlackRock wants to buy up beachfront property there, but I don't know that I would have done it the way he did, because frankly, it's a Danish possession.
Right.
And Denmark is a friendly power. We've never had any problems with the Danes, or they with us. And so you just pick up the phone and express an interest in Greenland and what's there and what sort of arrangements that could be made to exploit resources. Or if you're thinking in purely military terms, what could be done to militarize parts of it. You don't normally mention it publicly. Right. As for the Panama Canal, I don't want it back. I don't think anybody in their right mind does. In fact, there's a lot of talk about building a new canal further north. I'm sure you're aware of that, through Nicaragua.
Right.
And that's liable to be much larger and also easier to facilitate passage. I think the Panamanian Canal is in good hands. The Chinese are not, trying to occupy it and keep others out there. They've been employed to help build a harbor at one end. But they're doing that in many countries in the world. The Chinese are frankly about business. They're a cash and carry country. You pay us, we show up, we work, we leave. So I wouldn't get too excited over that. But who knows what else he's got going. And he may have just decided we ought to look into it. You just never know with Donald Trump.
So you don't think we're going to be adding Canada as our 51st state?
I don't know. I mean, I like most Canadians most of the time, but I find it interesting. If you want a plebiscite and people in central and western Canada that are English speakers, if they want to join us in some fashion or confederate with us, I don't see any problem with it. But remember that in Canada, the people who really know who they are the French.
Right.
And if you visit that part of the world, there is no mistaking who you're dealing with in Montreal or Quebec. They say, "Who are you?" "I'm a French Canadian," period.
Right.
The problem has been on the other end with the English speakers that have lost touch with their British roots. And they're kind of adrift at sea without identity. And so what does that make you? Some of them think they're Americans. I don't know. But what I would say is always a plebiscite. Back in 2014, I was attacked because I said there should be a plebiscite in Eastern Ukraine and in Ukraine as a whole. And the people in Eastern Ukraine who are Russians should be able to vote themselves into the Russian state. And I was asked, well, what happens if that doesn't happen? I said, you get a war, which we have. You can go back and find that in the archives at RT. That was the last time I think I was really on RT, because I was threatened by people. If you go on RT, we're going to pull your clearance. We're going to do all sorts of things. So I stopped going on RT, but that was still a good idea then. I like plebiscites. I'd much rather have people decide for themselves where they want to be and why.
Well, it sounds like, Greenland sounds more attractive now, because it sounds to me like Gavin Newsom might be interested in building a house up there. That seems to be he'll be more popular up there than he is down here.
Well, frankly,
have a neighborhood.
I think that's the perfect place for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, it's a good place for him, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. We ought to put him up there with all of his friends.
Yeah, he'd be a lot safer up there than down here, I think.
Come see us on tour in Dallas, Texas, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only there.